necromancers. Good day to you, partner. I'm keen, and I can already tell that I'll be your best friend in this forsaken camp.
Hey guys, Wheat Solo here, aka the Skeleton King. So, I wanted to put my thoughts kind of down for myself and Topwug, and then also I wanted to talk about some of the gear to make an optimal summoner. So, as you know, optimal summoner is going to be based around eternity and revives. Revives are just the best summon in the game, bar none. The second best summon is probably Amazon. Oh, I'm sorry, Valkyrie. And then the third best summon is probably Bear. Maybe there's an argument for Fire Golem. Bears are actually really good. They should really take the knockback off of them. By the way, every other Druid summon sucks, but bears are actually legit. They truly, truly are. But we're not talking about those classes because they suck. We're talking about good old Necromancer, good old Necromemer. And Eternity is the only item that we really want to use. Obviously, as I've shown Brand, you can go with the Green Goblin route and use a Beast, but we're going to be ignoring all that crap because we're going to be making an Eternity-based optimal summoner. And of course, Infinity's right there. And at the end of the day, you're going to make an Infinity IG for this build. I will probably do it for one of the videos I do. I'm sure we have an extra Infinity somewhere, and I doubt it's going to hurt our NL bank. Going on from there, are there any interesting rings you can use? By the way, first off and foremost, 20 FCR rings are so good. Rares are better than ever. Kudos to the PD2 team for redesigning how rares drop. You could argue maybe it's a little too good, but honestly, it's just nice to have good rares that every player can access except for the select few who can, play enough, hunt them down, get the wealth, etc., etc., etc. So 20 FCR rings are always going to be great, life after each kill, etc., things like that. But, diamond crafts as well are so good. But in general, we're going to be looking at probably running a Nature's Peach or Oak Sage, just because it's nice to have some extra resistances. We're going to be going max energy, and on max energy builds, you can actually go under 1,000 life or run above it comfortably with a little bit of max res. So I actually really like Nature's Peace on energy necros. Of course, there is Heart of the Wolverine on Wisp Projector. There is Bull Kathos for life, and Son of Jordan for mana. All of them have a reason to be ran. I also want to give a shout out to my man Dwarfstar, because Dwarfstar is actually an insanely good ring. It does suck that it has ICB on it because you don't want to block. I still think it deserves a shout out, and I think it's underrated actually. I mean, that's a nice chunk of life to get, but it's kind of overtaken by every other option I've given. Especially a nice rarer craft these days is probably better than a Nature's Piece. But don't sleep on it. Oak Sage, just a little bit of extra life, flat life, and then max res is really, really comfortable on max energy builds. So what kind of armor are we looking at? Well, by the way, I love Trang's chest, so just, don't get it twisted. Trang's chest is a great chest. But for this build, we need to hit 125 FCR. And if we're not going to be running an FCR chest, we're going to be doing Ligma. Blink is just too good. I love Trang's chest. Blood Warp has been buffed so many times, but you know what? I'd rather Blink than Blood Warp any day. But the other options, K. Jurgens, there's not much to say about it. It's a really fucking good chest for casters. Atma's Whale has been nerfed. I believe we still have a 30 FCR on NL, which is why I wanted to bring it up. Now, even with the nerf, I think there's reasons to run this over K. Jurgens, so I did want to include it, and in fact, it might be better on an optimal summoner build. Plus, skills is kind of overrated. Don't get lost in that. So Rad's like, oh, it's the same thing. Well, no, it's not, because this one has one less skill, but you get way more defense, and defense is an S+ tier stat. And then Steel Carapace, I just wanted to put it up there. It doesn't have FCR, but for any summoner build, Steel Carapace is always an option. I think this is still slept on to this day, and this armor needs more love. It just... look at this. Okay, look at this. That's a lot of defense. Remember, S+ tier stat. Ligma. That's the one I'm probably going to go with. Is there a chance I run something else? Yes. I do want to talk to Topwug about this build before I make it and make a video on it, because I want to make sure I'm doing one of the best versions of Optimal Summoner, because I don't want to I want to kind of showcase this build in all of its glory and then maybe go through alternatives, but I kind of want to get one down with the cream of the crop or close to it, you know. Maybe we'll figure something out during that first video where I'll go, you know, I think I can tweak it, make it better. That's okay, but I want to kind of get close to good. Close to godliness, okay, guys? Cleanliness, close to godliness. Blink. There you go. That's enough to talk about with Ligma. Moving on. I don't want to make a 2-hour video on this crap, okay? Stone. There's no way in hell I'm going to run Stone, but Stone is maybe even better than Steel Carapace. This armor is bonkers, okay? It gives you all res. It gives you stats, like good stats, not the bad stat. It doesn't give you dexterity. These are all S+ tier stats. Yeah. Literally a bonkers armor. Look at how much FHR it gives you. No, this thing is so good. In fact, I've seen summoners choose this over Steel Carapace, and you know, it's kind of hard to decide which one's better. Because a good Steel Carapace can get sockets on it, so you can make up the res. But Stone is really fucking good. Just remember that Stone's a really good armor. Exile. Now here's the classic. Okay, do you run Exile? Do you run Phoenix? Now, Phoenix is all the rage. Personally, I like Exile more, especially main hand. One of the biggest reasons is that both shields give great stats, but Exile gives you a ton of defense. Defense S+ tier stat. We're not going to be running Innocence on this build. I do think there's probably a version of Optimal Summoner that runs Innocence, but we're not going to be dealing with that. Maybe that is something I should look into, actually, but not for this first video, maybe further on down the line. But of course, Phoenix, I do want to bring it up. I don't think it's nearly as good as Exile, but it still has great stats on it. Both of these shields should be nerfed. Phoenix has been nerfed, I think. Not nerfed enough. This thing is so good. But it's so good. It's the question is Redemption Aura going to proc enough to make it worth it? For anyone who's ran Phoenix, you will know that sometimes you have to like slow down your play to benefit from the Redemption Aura. Now, of course, there is Shattered Wall. I do think I should include it. I don't think there's any chance in hell I run this, but this is really good too. And maybe Topwig will convince me to run it. I know Topwig has kind of been a fan of Shattered Wall over Exile. I'm not particularly sure on this build, for instance, but I do know he's been repping that shield a bit. So those are your 3 Rune Word options. I just wanted to include Martyrdom. I really think this is an underrated shield. That sucks. That's actually a negative stat that makes you absolutely just worse. But that's a lot of hit recovery. I think it's got good stats. Curse resistance is actually good. Yeah, it's kind of weird these days, but it's still good. And yeah, you're not going to benefit from this. We're not going Innocence again. Maybe that's why the Innocence version. I don't think I would even actually run Martyrdom on the Innocence version, but it's an idea. It's just a good shield. It's a good shield, guys. Dark Force Spawn. Why did I include this one? It's not really for the additional curse. It's kind of just FCR, and I put it up there because it's not like it's ever bad to not have an additional curse. So just keep that in mind, that there is a Necro shield out there that comes with FCR and gives you an additional curse. Also, there's the Rune Word Rhyme Splendor. One of those gives FCR. So that actually might even be better than this, but I just wanted to throw it up there just because I thought it was kind of interesting. Bone Flame, the classic. Faster Run Walk is OP. I still think Martyrdom has an argument to be better than Bone Flame, but it's kind of the Bone Flame has just more generally good stats, and so Martyrdom is harder to fit on builds. Like a lot of builds can be res hungry, and so that's where Bone Flame kind of just overtakes it. And again, that one completely dead stat sucks. Again, not even dead, negative stat. Wanted to rep this. I used to make fun of Topwig about this. It does have ICB, so fuck this shield, but really good. Necro skills, obviously, but Lesser Fade is broken. Now, you can't quite rely on it, but it procs enough that basically you have it up all the time, and it's actually just a super legit shield. That's really nice. All the stats are good. Yeah, you lose the PDR, but you gain PDR, blah, 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 blah. Okay, now I'm not going into boots, I'm not going into belt, I'm not going into gloves. Why am I not going into gloves? Well, because for gloves, you would run Trang's gloves, okay? There's really no reason to run a different glove. There is some shit like other gloves out there, but we're not using them. For belt, it's Arachnid Mesh or a rare belt. I think I'll probably end up using a rare belt. I really want a really good FCR res belt on NL. I have this weird one. Chopwick has these really good rare belts with res on them, but not none with FCR. And so that would be sick if I ever got one of those. And then for boots, it's like if you're going to use the declone boots or you're using tri-res boots. I love water walks. Maybe I should have put them up there because I just think water walks are such amazing things. But no, we're not. We're going to need the res probably or FCR. Amulet again. Amulet's going to be a rare amulet or the Rathma amulet, or is it the Rathma amulet, right? The frozen eye thing. Yeah, you guys know what I'm talking about. So that's why we don't need to go into those things. Oh, for helm, again, same thing. We're going to be using a circlet. There's no helm we would put on that build besides a circlet. It would be a rare circlet. So, yeah. Skill point distributions. Let's go through this quickly. Now, this is one idea I have now. I was talking about this, about lore resist, and I hated the small radius. So this is a way to get a really fat LR radius, all of your extras. I'm only level 94, so technically, I have some extra points, right? So 5 extra points, I believe. Yeah. I don't need to worry about getting a fucking Desecrate wand, Bone Armor wand, which, well, you would never do that, I guess. We got max revives, we got fire golems, and we got everything we need, and we have a juicy radius on this. Now, here's the reason why I don't know if I'm going to run this version of the build. I think I'm going to, where I'm at right now is, I want an Act 3 Holy Shock Merc, obviously. I just think he's the best Merc for most builds in-game. I think just having static field on any build, if you can afford it, it's just better than anything else. Yes, Act 1 Physical is so broken. Act 3 is so good. Emilio has uses. Borb has uses. But static field, the whole screen, too good. And by the way, somebody asked the question on this or made a comment. It's 85%, not 75%. That's actually not true. It's static field will stop working when a mob reaches 85% health and health difficulty, but the static field can still do 25% of their health on that first cast. Now, if you can't take into account reses and pierce, it's probably doing 20% per cast depending on the mob. So he was kind of right. Maybe it's doing like 80% of their health. I'm sorry, 20% of their health. Not quite 25%, but just keep that in mind. That's where static field stops working, not the limit of how much static field can do. Technically, if you put enough pierce on a character, you can have a static field do 50%. Now, again, there is a limit to how low you could drop an enemy's lightning resistance, which is negative 100. So yeah, you can't do more than negative 50 as far as I know. But I have a video up a long time ago showing that you can actually do negative 50 per cast, which is just, that's so cool. It is. Okay, so I'm going to be using the Act 3 Merc, and then I'm probably going to put a Warshrike and Innocence on him. Now, if I take off the Warshrike and go with some more defensive options, then I think Fire Golems will clearly be a great idea. But I think with the Warshrike Innocence, I'm going to have enough pulse around me to maybe the Fire Golem is kind of like overkill. My idea is this. I want to just warp through the max, LR, warp, LR, warp. I'm not waiting. That's why I think Phoenix might not work with the way I want to play it right now. I want to LR warp once per screen, twice per screen tops. So that's why I want a fat radius. The idea is the Warshrike Merc takes them all to a manageable level along with my Fire Golems. Hydras clean them off. And I want you guys to see how quickly you can play a Necromancer because Hydras are just that good. Now, if I don't go Warshrike, I'm running this for sure. If I do, I still might. But there's this option as well where you go into mages. Why is it 18? It's because at 18 you stop getting more mages. You kind of save 2 skill points. Now I have 7 skill points remaining, but I just wanted to kind of put that out there. Remember, mage is more damage than skeleton mastery, but if you're point hungry, you can take some points off of here. You could even take some points off of here if you're really skill point hungry. And again, I have the fat radius. I'm not sure this version is better or not. I'm just putting it out there. Now, this is what I believe was the original version of Optimal Summoner we ran all the way back then. You may notice something interesting. Oh, by the way, we did have the crep. That we had Max Curse Mastery, and then we dumped Skeleton Mastery at the end. By the way, it's possible it was actually dump Golden Mastery at the end. So, apologies, Topwig, if I'm getting that wrong. It's kind of hard. I think this version of the build was really good. I really enjoyed it, and it really might have been Golden Mastery. But the problem is that was before the curse radius changes. And so now running 20 CM just like doesn't quite work because having fucking 3 small radius curses sucks. It's just better to have one with a big radius on it. Now, yes, Curse Mastery buffs the radiuses of curses, which is why I did a little bit of both anyways. But like, just CM doesn't give you a big enough curse. And you could argue, well, just maxing one curse doesn't give you a big enough curse anyways. And it's like, yeah, but generally on a build like that, you're not playing as fast as I'm going to play. I guess, get good, or me get good or something. Yeah. Meh. So this is kind of the idea if you wanted to play with, our older version where you have archers as well, which I think is completely viable. Archers are so good. Is maybe you would do something like this, so you can still get a bigger radius LR. That's 10 yards. Is it that much bigger? It's the same radius. I think I'm going to end the video here. I mean, technically you could do this. So, there you go. This is the optimal version of Tri-Curse Skellymancer. Any one of these builds, you could obviously cut points somewhere if you wanted more curse radius, or like, there you go. Now we got some fat radius. Let's just fucking max it out. There you go.
Play with us.
Skelly King out. GG.
Come and play with us, Daddy. Forever.